I am Dr. Michael Oberschneider. I'm the Director of Ashburn Psychological Services. We're a multidisciplinary assessment and treatment team here in Loudoun County with psychiatry and psychology. It's exciting, of course, to get a phone call from national TV. Certainly the topic was a sad one. Here in Loudoun County, a teenager took his life. Hunter Perkins, a young man from South Riding. He was attending a prestigious private school up in Massachusetts, and got involved in a bullying incident, which led to his dismissal from the school. And so he in turn took his life when he returned home. And Good Morning America had heard about the story and wanted the story told, wanted the father specifically to tell his story on national TV. Because in this case, the suicide involved the young man as the bully, not the bullied. So they did a counterintuitive story looking at the bully as the story and understanding why the suicide occurred in that context. So yeah, it was exciting. They called up and they said, "Hey, Dr. Oberschneider, would you like to come on national TV to discuss bullying?"
Did they pronounce your name right?
Yeah, it's fun. With a name like Oberschneider, yeah, I didn't get it right till the 6th grade. It's a long name. It's a German name, of course. They did pronounce it right, and when I got there, they just called me Mike. They invited me up. They said, "Hey, do you want to come talk about this very sad story and but important story on national TV with the father?" And I said, "By all means, anything I can do to get the word out, to get the story out on bullying, and to help us understand it better, the full story, and to help this father heal by telling his story. Sure, I'd be delighted." It was. So they called me Friday afternoon, and by Friday evening I was on an airplane, and we got up to New York, and we had a limo pick us up, and you go to the studio. First you go to a hotel, get a little nap in. We got there very late. And then the limo comes back in a few hours, picks you up, and takes you to the studio. And I didn't know this, but Good Morning America has 2 studios. There's a Monday through Friday studio, which is in Times Square. And then there's a weekend studio, which is, I believe, on the Upper East Side. And it's what you would imagine. It's exactly what you would imagine. If you were to see it on TV, you go through the doors, and then there's all these hallways with TVs and offices and individuals at cubicles and big screens, and there's a lot of energy. There's a green room where they serve you some food and they talk to you, they prep you, and then they prepare you for the interview. Yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting to be there. I mean, it was bittersweet because there was a part of me, of course, as a psychologist, that liked the professional attention, the idea of getting on TV to talk about something important and to be that person on TV to talk about it. That of course, was a wonderful ego stroke. The bitter part of it was what we were talking about was, of course, a tragedy and a very sad story. So, of course, it was, while it was exciting, it was also a very somber experience. Yeah, and I received several phone calls from parents, and this was really, basically sort of validated that it was for me as a professional, as a psychologist, it validated that it was a good idea to go do the show. So I've received several phone calls from parents who, parents of bullies, right? Because that's what the show covered. It covered the idea of the full story of the bullying experience and the bully and the bullied. So I had parents of kids who had been bullied call me. I had actual parents who of bullies where their kids were accused of bullying, and they felt supported by the show. Kids bully for different reasons, and that was what I wanted to get out on national TV. Not every bullying incident is harassment. There's a very big difference between a bad prank, harassment, and a hate crime. the motivations that go into those three different experiences as well are very different. Some individuals bully for you know, because they feel inadequate about themselves, and they're compensating to feel better by being mean or cruel to others. Some bully because there's something going on at home, perhaps a divorce or an alcoholic parent. I've seen quite a bit of that. Some bully because they really do have deeper psychiatric problems, like perhaps maybe what we know from Columbine, those kids. But there's a full range of why kids bully. So I was getting phone calls from these parents who were feeling validated by our interview. You know, one parent called to say my son had horrible ADHD and had really bad impulse control and would act out in all sorts of ways during a school day, and at times he would bully because he was one of the bigger kids in the classroom and he could. But he wasn't bullying because he was a mean-spirited kid. He wasn't bullying because he had these deep psychiatric problems. He was bullying for attention. He was bullying because with ADHD he had poor impulse control. He exercised poor judgment with that condition at times. He was acting out. In this case, the parents said that the school system handled him well. They understood his bullying in the context of his condition, not just you're a bad kid, you know, you're suspended, or you're a bad kid, you're expelled. They really understood the kid's full needs and they supported him, which is what I think should happen everywhere. I think the bullying should be dealt with at the front end, not at the back end of the problem where there's a suspension or an expulsion or a suicide. I think that bullying should be handled at the front end so that if we identify, if we can, the school system specifically, can identify the bullying sooner or earlier, we can do all sorts of things. We can, first of all, we can address it and with the parents and try to coordinate our efforts in supporting the bully. We can do some assertiveness training, some sensitivity training, some brief therapy if needed, and so that we can avoid, in hopes of avoiding the back end, the suspension, the expulsion, the incident that could lead to those sorts of things, or worse. So I was getting these very affirming phone calls from families who said, you know, hey, thanks for getting up there and telling both sides of the story. And one phone call, a mother was very tearful because she, her son committed suicide as a result of a bullying incident, being bullied, that is. But she also felt supported. She said the more the story gets out there, the more we're talking about it, hopefully the educational systems will focus more on the full picture of not just the zero tolerance idea, you bully, you're expelled, but the full picture, the full dynamic of bullying, so that we can avoid these tragedies in the future.